Welcome to the Quietofthenightpodcast, currently a Repairman Jack book review and discussion podcast. I am your host, Gillian, and this is a special topic episode on the Rakoshi, the monsters from the Tomb by F. Paul Wilson, and the Rakshasa, which are the closest in Hindu mythology to the Rakoshi. Rakoshi in the book were created by an ancient god to destroy mankind. They were humans that were basically stripped of love and decency and everything good that humans are capable of. They were our worst elements brought fully to the front. Evil, hateful, lustful, violence incarnate. They stood 8 feet tall, dark, pure black, dark skin, muscular bodies. They had claws on the ends of their hands and feet that enabled them to climb up walls. Their heads were shark-like with a shorter snout, and their eyes were more forward to give them binocular vision. Their mouths were teeth-filled slashes on the underside of their snout. Their only weaknesses in the book were fire and iron. It was said that iron weakened them. Fire definitely killed them and was used several times within the book to kill Rakoshi. It's unclear if iron alone could kill a Rakoshi. It definitely made them sluggish and weak while inside the cargo hold of the freighter that they made their nest in. The Rakoshi also had a hunger for human flesh. Kasum distributed bottles of wine laced with the Rakoshi elixir, which was a special tonic that the Rakoshi could smell on people to hunt specific people. He distributed these bottles among the homeless in order to help train the Rakoshi and to provide a food source for them. They are described as somewhat intelligent but unable to speak, although the hybrid Rakoshi within the nest were able to speak because of their mixing with human genetics. Okay, so, as I said, the Rakoshi do not have a direct analogue in Hindu mythology. The closest analogue is the Rakshasa. They are described as demons and man-eaters and having claw-like fingernails, similar to the Rakoshi within the Tomb. But that is about where the similarities end. Within the Hindu mythology, they are described as being large, monstrous creatures with fangs from their top and bottom mouths, sharp claws, and they are described as having magic, being able to shapeshift, fly, create illusions. Their origin within the Hindu mythology is that they were birthed from the breath of Brahman as he slept after the end of Satya Yaga, which was the first age, the golden age of humanity. These demons, birthed from his breath, from his heavy sleeping breath, were immediately filled with rage and hunger, and they began to eat Brahma. He cried out for help, and Vishnu came to his aid, and he banished the Rakshasa to earth, where they became the villains and sometimes anti-heroes of Hindu stories. For example, in the Ramayana, an ancient Hindu text about Prince Rama, who was an avatar of Vishnu and his family. Rama often fought Rakshasa. The primary villain of the Ramayana is a Rakshasa called Ravan, who was the king of an island fortress called Lanka, populated by Rakshasa. In one of the more famous stories, Ravan kidnapped Sita, who was Rama's wife. Rama, along with the Vanari king, Sugriva, and his army of Vanars, laid siege to Lanka, eventually killed Ravan, and rescued Sita. As I said, Rakshasa were not all bad. In fact, Ravan's younger brother, Vibhishana, actually aided Rama in his campaign against Ravan. Vibhishana was described as beautiful, pious, and studious in his religious observances. He was even granted a boon by Brahma, which he asked never to swerve from the path of righteousness and to always be illuminated by divine knowledge. Another brother of Ravan's was a great warrior and a master of illusion. He had also received a boon from Brahma, which was the gift of long-lasting sleep. And he slept through most of the siege of Lanka. When he was awakened by Rava, he tried to convince Rava to release Sita, but when he couldn't, he joined the battle on Ravan's side due to his brotherly duty, and was utterly decimating until Rama used a secret weapon to kill him, dropping him like a huge tree, cleft in twain by a thunderbolt. So, Rakshasa, in Hindu mythology, they are presented as sort of a evil race. There were members of the group that were good. It's hard for me to say for sure how evil they were. Okay, I mean, they did start eating Brahma as soon as they were created, which is probably bad. But in later stories, they seem to be just sort of people that are good or evil as they are. It's hard for me to say, though, as someone who hasn't grown up hearing these stories or hasn't fully read all of these texts. Most of my information I've received, I gathered from Wikipedia, which, going from article to article, there are some interesting framings, depending on what article you're reading. In some, Ravan is purely evil. In some, they mention how he was a scholar and received a boon from Brahma, which his boon was to be invincible against any creation of Brahma except humans. He was a devout follower of Shiva and actually a capable ruler of Lanka, except for the whole kidnapping and causing a war. Apparently he did okay on that front. So the actual mythological creatures were not the chaotic evil that their fictional counterparts were portrayed as. They were more nuanced in the Hindu mythologies. And I think this is a good place to stop. Next episode, though, is the review and discussion of Legacies on the 23rd of February. And if you have any questions or comments, you can email me at quietofthenightpodcast@gmail.com. This has been the Quiet of the Night podcast. I have been your host, Gillian. Have a good night.